I'm Becky Quick of CNBC and your host of The Forum. I'll be guiding you through exclusive conversations among some of the world's global leaders. Conversations previously held behind club doors, but today we invite you in. The Economic Club of New York serves as the premier forum for nonpartisan discussion dedicated to connecting the world's brightest minds with preeminent public and private sector leaders. A nonprofit 501c3, the club is a 115-year-old platform for the conversations that help shape the future of our world. The Economic Club of New York, brightest minds, critical conversations, catalyst for innovation.
But the characteristics I always look for in an industry are the size, first of all. Because if you're going to create something, if you want to create a lot of value, you've got to have a big TAM. Don Valentine at Sequoia used to talk about that all the time. You need a big addressable market, otherwise it's hard to solve a big problem and create a lot of value. I look for inherent growth in the business even before I get in. So it's got to be an industry that's got tailwinds, not headwinds. It's got to be something that just by showing up every Monday morning, there's more demand than there was secularly over time. I look for things where there's stuff to buy because, I'm an M&A and operations guy. So I look for industries where there's companies to buy at reasonable prices and where the playbook that we've used over and over again works, where it's applicable and it can improve the profitability of the business. Those are the main things I look for in an industry.
So brings us to QXO. Let's use that as an example. What's the building products distribution?
Which I find very sexy.
Very sexy.
Very sexy.
I mean, shareholder returns are sexy, right?
They are. They're attractive. People like that stuff.
So, but why that one? And what's the opportunity? So
I had on my desktop, I had a list of all the things I was looking for in an industry. Mainly the things I just mentioned and 4 or 5 other things too. And I looked at about 600 companies over about 55 different industries. And this was the first one that literally checked every box. So that was the girl I wanted to marry. I was done. This is it. This is the one I want to do. So I like the characteristics of the industry. I think it's a safe bet that building products is not going into the metaverse. That 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're still going to go home to a real physical house with a roof and windows and doors and bathtub. I don't think that's going away. And I think over time, because of the shortage of housing and the age of all the commercial and residential buildings, I think there's going to be a lot of repair and remodeling. I think there's going to be a lot of new construction over time. There'll be cycles. But over time, I think it's up and to the right. So I like that. I like the fact that it's fragmented. There's like 20,000 distributors.
Because you can buy them all.
Buy some of them. I don't know what all. Buy a lot of them. Actually, I don't have to buy a lot of them. I have to buy 1 or 2 a year of large size. We can do these smaller tuck-ins too.
You did this big $11 billion deal that closed this year.
We did. Beacon was $11 billion deal, and that was a great deal. I liked it a lot. That was like the perfect deal for us. But there's others too. The goal is to get to $50 billion in revenue. That's the next mountaintop we're going to climb. We'll climb another mountaintop after that, but the first mountaintop is $50 billion. So in order to do that, I got to buy 30, 40 billion and organically grow it through price, through volume, through market share, up to the 50 billion. So with the 9 or 10 billion we already bought, we're a quarter to a third there already. So we don't have to do a zillion deals. We have to do good deals. We have to do deals that are reasonably priced, not really low priced, because you're not going to buy anything if really you get too stingy on that, but definitely not overpriced. It's the number one mistake that acquirers make is they fall in love with a deal and they pay some ridiculous price.
How do you make sure you don't do that?
Well, it's numbers. It's very, very straightforward. You can figure out, you look at trailing numbers, you can hypnotize yourself, and if you look forward numbers that are big hockey sticks saying, oh wow, we're in a trough now, and next year it's all going to come back, and then you can convince yourself that, yeah, I'm really buying this thing really cheaply off this hockey stick stuff, but maybe you are, maybe you're not, maybe it gets worse. So you look at trailing numbers, and then you look at what multiple you're paying for that, and then you make sure that is a significant discount to your cost of capital, where you're raising capital at. And that spread between where you can raise capital at and where you're deploying capital at, even before you improve the businesses that you buy, you're ahead of the game.
And then what? How do you approach the negotiation?
Negotiation to buy?
Yeah.
With respect. And I try to avoid all the games that you see in the M&A world. There's like so many games. All this
like
making the other guy wait.
Right.
And this is like everybody does that.
It's like dating rules.
Well, I was never good at dating. But
You have a wonderful wife.
I do. I ended up in a good place, but it wasn't due to my dating skills. So it's kind of like a passive-aggressive thing where you're trying to buy a company.
Hard to get. Play hard to get.
You're playing hard to get. Yeah. And people find other things to do if you play hard to get. So I call the guy back 5 minutes afterwards. So yeah, sure, maybe he thinks, his tongue is hanging out. I was really hungry for this deal. I am hungry for the deal on certain terms. So I don't like posturing. I don't like playing games. I don't like baloney. I just be very straightforward and talk about what we need on the deal and try to figure out, listen very carefully, what do you need on the deal? And do these things overlap? Is there a way that we can win-win this so that we come out ahead with the things that are important, the most important things that are important to us? You're not going to get everything. It doesn't work like that. But the most important things, and you get what you need too.
What have been some of the toughest negotiations you've been involved in? What are some that stand out?
Well, we've managed, when you say I get credit for this stuff. It's really the team and my teams. So the teams and I have bought over 500 acquisitions. And I would call those the ones that were not problematic because we got to the finish line. Some of them were in fits and starts and delays, but eventually we got there, so it was good. We looked at thousands. I mean, literally thousands that either we didn't want to do because we found some didn't fit us. We weren't able to create the kind of value that we're looking for. Or we messed up. We messed up and someone else stole right from under us at a price that we would have done. That's a bad couple hours after you get that news. Someone else got exactly what you wanted at maybe even a lower price you were willing to pay.
Then what do? Do you fire your banker?
No, we all make mistakes. I don't expect perfection. I don't expect perfection in my team. I don't expect perfection in myself. I don't expect perfection in the world. In fact, the opposite. I expect imperfection everywhere. I expect all of us to mess up, including myself, and to forgive that and to move on and give yourself permission to be human, as the positive psychologist says. I think that's an important life lesson.
I know, that's what I love about you. I always get life lessons and sort of mindful advice as well, deep in an M&A conversation.
It's in the book.
It's fun. Yes, it's in the book. Read the book.
First 2 chapters.
Meditation, right? You're a big meditator.
Meditation is the first chapter, and then therapy is the second chapter. Like getting your head in a good place and getting it back into a good place once you inevitably get kicked out of it, because you do. And then the middle part of the book, so I start with getting your head in a good place. The middle part of the book is integration. Like exactly, what is the playbook? Because in the first book, I talked a lot about M&A. I talked about acquiring a company and how you think about that and all the psychology of it and the practicality of it. And I got a lot of questions of, okay, I get that. So what do you do after you buy it? And how do you finance it? So I kept track of all the questions people asked. I have a lot of friends on LinkedIn. I've never met them, but I consider them friends.
Cult leader.
And I get all these questions, and they started getting repetitive after a while. And I said, okay, look, there's about 15 or so that are everyone keeps asking the same questions. So you know what, I'm just going to write a book. Someone asked me the question, I'm going to say, go to page 400, go to page 200.
But Barbara said it's a lot of your secret sauce. Why did you decide to share while you're still in the game?
I mean, people say that all the time. They say, ooh, you ought to play your cards closer to your vest. Why are you telling people?
You don't like games.
No, life's too short for that stuff.
Would you like to be a part of the conversations at the Economic Club of New York? Learn more about membership, the New York City and National Fellows programs, and other opportunities for engagement in the club at www.econclubny.org.
But why do you think you've been so successful where others haven't when it comes to deal making?
There's tons of people who have been much, much more successful than I am. And I don't consider myself the most successful. Michael Dell just gave away this morning,
It was amazing.
$5 or $10 billion, just no big deal.
6.4, the U.S. Treasury.
A lot of dope. So I mean, there's people who have been much more successful than I have. Now his was not as much M&A as, well, it was in a way. It was divesting to Broadcom and the stock going up real well. But it was really organically improving the company he started from scratch. And I respect founders. I respect people who start something, who take the risk, have confidence in themselves, have a big idea, clearly thought out, share that vision with the team, get people to leave their jobs and sign it and go all in on it, based on compensation on the vision, and then execute. Make it happen and always adapt to the changing circumstances and create a lot of value. So guys like Michael Dell, I just really respect a lot.
So you mentioned the book gets really into how to make deals successful once they've been done. What is the key to that?
So if you look through the middle part of the book, the second section of the book, it's the playbook. It's what do we do when we buy a company? Because in the waste business, in the construction equipment rental business, in the transportation business, in the warehouse business, in this business, it's pretty much the same playbook. And the playbook starts with, how do you make money on this? Like, how does the business actually make money? Like, where's the alpha here? And what can we control that makes a lot of money, that gets us a leg up on the competition, that makes the customer choose us instead of all the choices they got, and then design an org chart from scratch that matches that. And we always find the org chart is messed up, like 100 times out of 100. And particularly when we buy companies that were roll-ups, that were built up by buying other companies, because many, if not most, people do M&A serially. They're good at buying, they're good at financing, they're not so good at integration. That's just not their thing. They're kind of light touch on it, but they're not really all in. And because they haven't done it over and over again, they're scared. Like their first thought in their mind is, well, let's not do too much integration because we're going to like lose people or going to annoy people or it's going to be tension, there's going to be friction. And if you do change management right, and if the changes that you're making are good, that means it's good for everybody. You have a lower cost structure so you can let the customer benefit from that. There's bigger profit pools so the employees can make more money. Shareholders are happy. So I always like to get the org chart right with the spans and layers. So the spans of control, meaning how many reports are there, and we find it's all over the place. It's random. Beacon had managers, quote unquote, managing, quote unquote, 1, 2, 3 people. I don't call that a manager, I call that a friend, because there's nothing to do after Tuesday afternoon. You're managing 2 people.
So do you fire them?
We let people go. Yeah. We try to be very elegant about that, respectful about that, gracious and generous on the outside. These are all people that are going to end up at vendors or competitors or supplier or whatever. It's something and sometimes they come back. We have a spot for them. We didn't have a spot before. So I got to get the org chart right and the spans of control and the layers between the CEO and the customer. So we typically find there's too many layers. Beacon, for example, had 9 layers. I don't know how to run a company with 9 layers. I wouldn't know how to get anything done. I've always run companies I have a handful of, maybe a COO help me as we get bigger, but I have like 6 or so people running the divisions. And then you have, depending on how big it is, 100, 200 RVPs or some similar title. And then you have hundreds or a couple thousand branches or service centers or unit stores or locations. And that's all you need. You don't need more than that. You don't want more than that. If you want more than that, it's hard to execute. It's hard just to get stuff done. So getting the layers, getting the spans of control, that's really important. And then we look at procurement. Procurement, like how are we buying stuff? And so Beacon, for example, had 1,600 people who had the delegation of authority to procure. Well, when you have 1,600 people, the manufacturers call them all and find out who's like the most eager and sell at the highest price. I'm used to having 6 people, 10 people doing centralized procurement. Now, the field can order through the catalog, but you want to negotiate from a position of getting the whole buying power that you have as an organization. So we look at procurement. We look at the transportation of what we're buying to our locations. So Beacon, like the rest of the industry, typically delegated that to the OEM. We know how to find trucks, for God's sake. That's something we do know how to do. So we took that over and said, we don't want you to deliver it for us and charge us a big margin for that. Just we'll pick it up FOB at the factory. We'll take care of the transportation. And then in the warehouse, getting the logistics right. Getting like GXO logistics style running a warehouse, which means a professional warehouse management system and doing the proper slotting and the right locations and 99.9% inventory accuracy and just running a serious warehouse that's automated in a big way and has fewer humans and more software, and eventually robots and cobots. And then on the last mile, going from the warehouse to the customer, doing that in a way that is optimized using a sophisticated transportation management system, a TMS, that delivers on time and in full. And you can give advanced notice to the customer so they can plan their life. And then there's compensation. There's compensation, so figuring out every single person in the company, assuming there's someone who fits into this, what we're trying to achieve, high performance culture, keep them, and then tie the compensation to what they can influence or control, and that's what they make money on. So now people, I learned a long time ago, Sarah, that people don't come to work because they like me and are trying to make me rich. They're coming to work because they're making money for, usually not themselves, for their family. And so compensation is really, really critical to get right. So those are the kinds of things we look at. And then technology underlying all of this. Every single thing I just mentioned, getting the state-of-the-art technology.
Right. So, I mean, so it's a mix of your cost cutting, you're improving operations, you're streamlining, you're figuring out a growth plan. How do you deal with cultural, you mentioned the word friction. How does that come together?
I find people have either two reactions to our culture. Either they go, whoa, this is too fast, too big, I kind of like doing it manually, I don't want to do technology, or I don't want to have metrics or KPIs, it's just not for me, goodbye. That's okay, it's just not a match. It's not that they're good or bad, it's just not a match. But I find that the majority of people get energized. They get enthused, they get excited, and plus they make more money.
I was going to say, you're paying them more. That helps.
We don't pay more typically on the base salary. Sometimes we even pay less than the base salary.
You incentivize.
We love uncapped incentive compensation, where somebody knocks the leather off the ball, pay them. Let them make a lot of money. That's a good thing. And then everybody else in the company says, whoa, Joe made a couple $1 million. Maybe I can do that too. And then stack rank everybody by the KPI. And no one wants to be on the bottom of the totem pole on the stack ranking. So everybody automatically, they go to the top folks and say, how do you do it? Like, how did you get to the top 10%? And they want help because they don't want to be in that bottom percent. And the top people like the recognition and they like being they don't want to get off to be in the top dogs.
Like a competition.
A healthy competition.
How did you learn to do all this? Is it just from experience? Because you didn't study business, did you?
I dropped out of college.
That's what I thought.
I never took one finance course, never took
to
one.
trade oil, right?
I traded oil, I just did it. I just started doing stuff and using common sense. I had a lot of mentors. I might glom on to older people who want to share, and I find most successful people, if you ask them for help and respect their time, they'll help you. And I had a lot of people who helped me all along the way.
Who were some of your mentors?
Well, my most famous one is Mr. Ludwig Jesselson, who took me in when he was 50 years older than me, and he was just a very successful guy, and I was in my 20s, and he was the biggest oil trader in the world at Philip Brothers, and I was just starting out oil brokerage firm, which in 4 years became the largest oil brokerage firm, partly because of Philip Brothers, partly because we did so much business with them. And, you know, when you glom on to someone like super successful like that, it's very little effort. It's mainly just hanging around them and watching and observing how do they interact with other people and what are their motivations, and you get like just even a few sentences here and there. A few sentences like, wow, that's deep. That's like earth-changing.
Do you worry about competition? Like, do you sit and think about what they're doing and watch what they're doing and try to beat them?
You know, I learned from Jeff Bezos, don't focus too much on the competition. Focus on the customer, and I like to focus on the employees, because I learned that you can have the same number of employees as someone else, but if you've got everybody jazzed up, and you got everybody enthusiastic, and you have everyone tied in on compensation to winning, that's a whole different deal than someone else who's got, okay, but not highly engaged, and then watching the clock, and just a different deal. So I pay a lot of attention to employees, tons and tons. We measure it, we send out surveys, do a lot of town halls, a lot of communication. I send out a daily email to the entire company.
Every day?
Every day, yeah. Well, QXO AM. So first thing in the morning, you come up and say, hey, here's what we're working on. And it's a long list of what we're working on, but here's why I do that. People want to understand, well, what is this company? Well, who am I working for? Like, what are you doing? And how do I fit into that? And what are other people doing? And how can I network with other people in the company to further my career and to be more successful? So you want to be communicating a lot. You can't over-communicate with your employees. It's literally impossible. So all the surveys that we do over the decades, we ask them, what's your level of job satisfaction? We don't play these games that the consultants say of, would you recommend this to a friend, or would you have your sister-in-law buy this? We just say, we treat them like adults. Like, rate your job satisfaction on a scale of 1 to 10. Like, people know how satisfied they are. You don't have to play games with them. And then we say, what would it take to make it a 10 if it's not a 10 already? And what's your single best idea to improve the company? And I would say 80% of the time, the first list, because we do a lot of cloud analysis and words and sentiment, way more than half, the first thing that comes out is communication. They just want more. People want to be part.
You write a letter every day. I don't know a single CEO that.
Well, it's not to me, it's a team.
Okay.
It comes from my office, but I have about a dozen. By the way, Mario does this at XPO Logistics too. We have about a dozen of the senior executives, including me, and we just want to touch proverbially every employee every single day. It's a little tricky because everyone's not on email. So you have to figure out some way to touch the people who are on the rank and file who aren't on email. That's trickier stuff, so we have apps for that. I think in terms of AI is the real deal. Are we in a bubble? Yeah, we're probably, from a stock market point of view, we're probably more likely to be in a bubble in terms of valuation than not. That doesn't mean you can't invest them and make a lot of money, because bubbles last until they don't. You can still make a lot of money on that. I think in terms of the substance of AI, this is a real deal. So I'm known as a context guy, as a trend guy, somebody who can figure out, probably my reputation is better than I really am. But my reputation is to be able to spot trends really well. If you look at where we've come from, how we got here, where we are, and where we could go, without any doubt, the biggest, because I've thought about this a real lot, I think about it all the time, the biggest trend is technology. So you look back, and this is in the book, 2.6 million years, the history of humans and our proto-human ancestors. The biggest trend is we create tools that outsource things that we used to do ourselves, and the tools do it, and we free up time to do other stuff. And that's accelerating. The pace of technological advancement is going faster and faster and faster, particularly in the last 5 or 10 years. But this has been a long-term trend. Where it's going is undetermined. So you look at, and in the book, in the conclusion, if you're not going to read anything in the book, and I find a lot of people skim the book. I get that, everyone's busy. Read the conclusion, because it's relevant to this. I think it's very topical, and I'd love to get feedback of where you think I'm wrong or where you think I could understand it better. I outlined 4 different scenarios where I think all this advancements in robotics and genomics, and especially AI, where it's just going to go. And I outlined 4 different scenarios, 2 of which are pretty bad, which are the AI itself saying, boy, these humans are weird. They spend a lot of time fighting with each other and disagreeing with each other and have all these biases, and they're tribalistic, and they don't know how to get along. Maybe let's get rid of them. Or maybe another scenario is, one of our totalitarian adversaries beats us on AI with cyber or with biowarfare and subjugate us or kill us. Those are real bad things, dystopian things, which I really hope don't happen, and they don't have to happen. The 2 real good ones center around us using technology to solve all of our problems, literally all of our problems. All of our problems with health and huge longevity, all of our problems with poverty. There's tons of resources around the world. There's no reason that a quarter of the population of the world goes to bed hungry every night. That is nuts. There's so much abundance of resources around the world. And I put in the book that with AI, I think I put the title of that section was Who Wants to Be a Billionaire? Out of fooling around with the TV show that used to be Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Because I think if we use AI correctly and we put the right guardrails on it, and the West ends up being the victor in terms of mastering AI and advancing it, we can use this to create a utopian world. And it's really, it's the promise of what AI can do. While it will be disruptive and change pretty much every single institution that exists today, government, educations, how we interact with each other, just everything from A to Z, it could be really good. And people could live happy, healthy, wealthy lives where the spending power of any of the 8 billion people in the world could buy the same things that the 2,000 billionaires can buy today. So the spending power, the luxury, so to speak, that the billionaires have will be democratized. Everybody will have this same access to wealth and to what you can achieve with the wealth. And humanoid robots will be, and powered by AI, yes, they will replace pretty much all jobs, including mine, by the way. But that's okay, because it's going to free up time for us to just enjoy and be happy and to live long, successful, creative, harmonious lives. And if it ends up right, if we end up using AI and robotics and all the advances in medicine right, wow, this could be a really cool place to live in Not too long.
You've been listening to The Forum by the Economic Club of New York, a nonprofit 501c3 dedicated to connecting the world's brightest minds for critical, nonpartisan conversations. Be sure to subscribe now to be alerted to future new episodes. Would you like to be a part of the conversation at the Economic Club of New York? Learn more about membership, the New York City and National Fellows programs, and other opportunities for engagement in the club at www.econclubny.org. I'm your host, Becky Quick. Thanks for listening.